Good day, hello, hi, and welcome to yet another episode on Influ Market 101 right here on the hashtag Listen platform. I am your host, Hezekiah Kock, and today I am joined by Nadine Mckenzie. Nadine, welcome to the hashtag Listen platform.
Thank you for having
It's
me.
a pleasure. Thank you so much for coming. So, I'm going to ask you just to give us a brief background about yourself and what you do.
I'm Nadine. I am based in Cape Town. I run an organization that I co-founded named Unmute Dance Theatre, which is an inclusive dance company whereby we work with dancers with and without disabilities with a vision to bring together artists or dancers specifically
Yeah.
of different backgrounds and abilities and disabilities to work together in one space.
That's nice. So can you tell us what inspired you to open Unmute Dance Theatre?
Um, Many things
Mm-hmm.
actually. So I was a performer, still part time,
Mm-hmm.
for quite a long time. I started performing when I was young in
Okay.
school. I did ballroom and Latin dance. And in grade 12,
Mm-hmm.
I met this previous company that I worked with called Remix Dance Company,
Okay.
which was at the time the only inclusive company in Cape Town or in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really know what integrated work was up until that point. I saw this performance, this company, they came and did a performance at my school, and there was two dancers in the production. One was deaf and one was in a wheelchair.
Okay.
I don't know, somewhere in the performance, I stopped seeing specifically the dancer in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
And when they had spoken about the work after the performance, I came to the realization that I think this is really what inclusion is.
Yeah.
And this is what it means to be together and perform together,
Yeah.
where you stopped seeing a disability, you see the
Yeah.
artist. And that really inspired me and made me more interested in the art form. And so I started going to their classes,
Mm-hmm.
later joined their training program, and then became a full time performer in the company. Years later, the company sadly closed down because of many challenges within the organization, but also lack of funding.
Yeah.
And then a year later, myself and a few of my older colleagues, we then decided, let's just do our own thing.
Yeah.
One of the reasons were there were no other company that were doing the same work.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically, dancers with disabilities were finding it very hard to find work. Where it's easy for any other performer to go and audition
Yeah.
anywhere, and they will only be critiqued on their technique and their ability to deliver. Dancers with disabilities that were going to auditions
Mm-hmm.
were judged on whether they were able to do what they are there for,
Yeah.
which is sad. But we also understand the times at the time we were living in. And so it was important for us not just to start our own thing, but to continue this work and to spread more awareness.
Yeah.
And that is how Unmute was started. Yeah.
And it's actually a very good initiative because, as you said, there's not a lot of classes available for you guys, and it's very important that we treat each one and everyone equal when it comes to that. And thank you so much for opening the door for people like you yourself at Unmute Dance Theatre. And it's actually a very, very, very good initiative. So can you take me back to when you discovered that you have that passion and that fire for dancing?
To be funny, I actually didn't.
Really?
No.
Uh,
I was in school, so there was this organization that was doing a Latin and ballroom,
okay.
but with dancers in wheelchairs.
Yeah.
And so this lady came to our school, and one of my teachers actually came and asked, "Would you like to go to the dance
Yeah.
classes?" I was like, "No way. Why? What
Mm.
for?" Um, and she just tried to encourage as much learners to go.
Yeah.
But I think one of the things that popped into my head was, but how can someone in a wheelchair dance?
Mm-hmm.
Which is the question many people would ask. I was not aware of the art form. I was
Mm-hmm.
not aware also that people with disabilities, would be able to even dance.
Yeah.
If I eventually ended up going, and I stayed there, but also just because my peers were there, and it took me out of
Yeah.
class. And so I stayed with them for about, I think, 2 years,
Mm-hmm.
and then I stopped. Um, I think I stopped because I was not really that interested in that specific dance form.
Mm-hmm.
And I later then, when I met Remix,
Yeah.
then went back to dancing.
Okay.
But yeah, I was not really interested in dance at all.
Mm-hmm.
I went because, yeah, I was there because my friends were there and because I was asked to be
Yeah.
there. But yeah.
Yeah, and that's that. So tell me, in terms of funding, how do you guys cope, or do you guys charge a fee, or is there support for Unmute?
We unfortunately have to go the route everyone else does. We have
Mm-hmm.
to apply for funding
Okay.
on a regular basis. We have to apply for funding for our productions or for any of our other projects in the company.
Yeah.
So, yeah, a lot of the performances that we do, we would also then make money from that.
Mm-hmm.
But we mainly have to fundraise and apply for funding.
Okay. And how's that working out currently?
So far so good. Of course, we have our ups and downs. There's
Mm-hmm.
times when we do well with fundraising and finding funding,
Yeah.
but of course, then there's times where
It
it's
doesn't
really hard.
happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's tough to have a lot of fundraisers, and when you have something like a dance studio or business that is NPO, like we call it, a non-profit organization, or something of the sort. It's very tough when it comes to funding, and we know that it's a real struggle. But fundraisers really help, and when you have the necessary support from the people around you and people that can make things happen, because you need a very strong team
Mm,
behind you as well, then
yeah.
everything will go well. But in the future, we would like to see that they actually allocate something, because I'm just assuming that you are one of few dance studios that cater for people with a disability.
Mm,
And it's not only for people that are in wheelchairs, it's for people that are blind,
yeah.
deaf, all people. And um yeah, so it would actually be nice if they could give you guys the necessary funding, because it's the first time that I've heard of a school for the people with a disability. Yeah, so how do you love through your dancing? How is your experience? How do you, when you perform, do you love out yourself through your dancing?
Um, yes. So a lot of the work that we do,
Mm-hmm.
it's centered around our own lived
Yeah.
experiences or that of our surroundings and our communities.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so a large portion of the work, it comes from personal
Yeah.
experiences, things that we know, things we can tap into, and things we've also been through.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things that for me personally, that
Mm-hmm.
drives me with the work. Um, yeah, but for the past few years now, I've been taking a back seat in performing and mainly just focused on the organization and running it.
Mm-hmm.
But of course, performance is still something very largely
Yeah.
a part of who I am and that I am very passionate about.
Okay. So can I
Yeah.
ask this? You said you took a step back from dancing, so are you busy directing and choreographing, giving lessons? Are you doing
Yeah,
that currently?
yeah, but
Yeah.
also just from a organizational perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So mainly just running all our programs and
Okay.
making sure that everything is in place, and also making sure that there's funding to do all those
Okay.
things. Yeah.
And what programs do you run? Because I hear you speaking about
So
programs.
apart from
Mm-hmm.
performances, we have an outreach
Mm-hmm.
program. So a large part of our work is educational.
Okay.
So we focus on training,
Mm-hmm.
running classes
Okay.
on a weekly basis. That is for young people,
Mm-hmm.
also for students that are leaving school,
Mm-hmm.
school holiday programs. And then we have our schools outreach program whereby
Yeah.
we go to different schools, offer performances and workshops. And then we do our tours where we take the work to different
Yeah.
places.
All the hard work
Yeah.
and then showcase it
Yeah.
to the people. So what are some of the challenges that you guys have faced
Um,
within the business?
yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say one of the biggest challenges would be finding people with
Okay.
disabilities. Often we have to physically go to places to look for people. It's either one, the understanding of the work is, a lot of people are not aware of this kind of
Yeah.
work. And then, of course, there's also, because of how society has been designed, a lot of disabled people don't have access to many things, access to transport, access to being around anybody.
Yeah.
So there's still a lot of, I'd say, separation
Yeah.
between people living with disabilities and our mainstream society. So then getting people to be involved in activities outside of their comfort zones
Yeah.
or outside of their communities is also something that's quite
And
difficult.
I can imagine it
Yeah.
is a struggle because sometimes people don't want to come out
Yeah.
because, like you mentioned, it's not very wheelchair
Yeah.
friendly, or it's not friendly for them like to move around.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I can imagine the struggle, and it's really sad. And I think what should happen is places should have more access for people in wheelchairs and
Yeah.
people with disabilities. They should make those things available for everyone. So what would you advise people when coming to your dance school? What advice would you give?
I would say just to come as you are
Mm-hmm.
and be open minded,
Yeah.
and treat everyone else the way you would want to be treated
Yeah.
as well. Especially in our space, we don't treat anyone differently,
Mm-hmm.
whether you have a disability or
Or
not.
not?
That's not the point.
Yeah.
The point there is for people to come together and share something
Yeah.
together.
Yeah, and I know that the dance school, it caters for everyone.
Yeah.
Everyone is welcome. So can you tell us more? Where are you located? And because platforms like hashtag Listen easier to educate people, so can you tell us more where you guys are located? If people want to come, how do they join, and do they become part of the Unmute family?
So we are based here in Cape Town at Artscape Theatre.
Okay.
That's where our office and rehearsal space is. And anyone can reach us through all our social platforms or on email. Anyone that wants to join for classes or for training program can find us, yeah, through our Artscape website or through Unmute.
Okay. Yes. Thank you so much for sharing that information with us. Are there any last words of motivation that you would like to give to our viewers?
Um, I don't know. I'd say work hard, especially to our young people. Yes, there are challenges, but that should use those challenges as stepping
Yeah.
stones, as and not as stumbling blocks. And that anything is possible and you can achieve it. It just needs hard work and dedication.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And believing in
And
yourself.
believing in
And
yourself,
believing in
most
yourself.
importantly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for that word of encouragement, Nadine Mckenzie. We are so grateful that we had you on the hashtag Listen platform to educate us more about unmute and what you guys do. Thank you so much once again for joining us here. We really appreciate it from the hashtag Listen Team.
Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure. And that's right, guys. We have come to the end of another episode, a very educational episode. Please do not forget to like, follow, and subscribe to all our social media channels. Yes, guys, I am your host, Hezekiah K. Right here on InfluMarket 101, right here on the hashtag Listen platform, signing out.